7th grade history, chapter 3, section 3, Egypt's confusion. False beliefs about creation. The ancient Egyptians believed that the Nile gushed up from an underground sea at the first set of rapids. They explained the river's flood cycle with stories about their gods. They also had myths for the sun's daily cycle of rising and setting. The Egyptians' belief in false gods prevented them from seeing nature as it really is. Ancient Egypt confused the Creator with his creation. Although that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath shewed unto them. Romans chapter 1, verse 19. The Egyptians did not recognize the one true God. They did not see that nature operates according to basic laws of matter and energy established by God. Neither did they see that nature is subject to miracles when God chooses to interrupt the routine operation of the basic laws. Forgetting that nature is not God, the Egyptians were overly impressed with it. Everywhere they looked, they saw awesome powers and forces to be worshipped as gods. Results of Egypt's confusion. Medical advances. Their concern for practical things led the Egyptians to make great advances in medicine. Egyptian doctors were famous in the ancient world, particularly for their treatment of physical injuries. For many ailments, however, Egyptian doctors tried to use magic. Belief that evil spirits cause disease naturally accompanied the belief that the powers of nature are gods. Strict guidelines in art. Egypt also excelled in the arts. The beauty of Egyptian architecture and sculpture has impressed men for centuries. Egyptian painters had no rivals in the ancient world. Unfortunately, Egypt's artists were hindered by their belief in natural cycles. Egyptian art was beautiful, but because change was not acceptable, it was all very much alike. The confusing gods of the Egyptians. The Egyptians worshipped many gods, possibly hundreds. Some of their most interesting gods were animals such as cats, crocodiles, cows, and frogs. They were so serious about their worship of animals that they even buried some animals in the same elaborate manner in which they buried their own people. According to an old story, some Egyptians once killed a foreigner because he had killed one of their sacred cats. Other Egyptian gods were pictured as men or as combinations of animals and men. Horus, for example, had the body of a man and the head of a falcon. The Egyptians also worshipped their kings, called pharaohs, as gods. In making gods of man and 2 birds and 4-footed beast and creeping things, Romans chapter 1, verse 23, the Egyptians showed that they had no clear idea of the important differences between man and animals. In a sense, Egyptian beliefs lowered men to the level of animals and elevated animals to the level of gods. The Egyptians' belief in the afterlife, assurance of an afterlife. From the earliest times, Egyptians believed with certainty in life after death, but were very confused about what this afterlife would be like. It supposedly resembled this life in many ways. The soul, they thought, could leave the body at death, but it had to be able to return to the body periodically. This belief in an afterlife explains why the Egyptians were so concerned about building tombs to protect their bodies. A well-equipped tomb had such articles as food, sandals, and jewels. It might also be decorated with paintings and wooden models relating to the afterlife. Mummification. The Egyptians' belief in an afterlife also led them to preserve bodies through a process known as mummification. First, they would soak a dead body in mixtures of salt, spices, and resins to preserve it. After the body had dried into a shriveled shape, they stuffed it and wrapped it with linen. The entire process could take as long as 70 days. Cycle of the God Kings. At first, the afterlife was limited to the pharaohs and their families. The Egyptians believed that every pharaoh ruled on earth as the god Horus and in the underworld after death as his father Osiris. Later, access to the afterlife was extended to all Egyptians. The cycle of the God Kings gave the Egyptians great incentive to obey their pharaohs.